Shalom Havarim. At this time in this video, Abba willing, we will outline the main events that have occurred, are occurring, or will occur in these last days in order to give believers a better understanding of the Father's plan for those who guard His truth in such a way and in such a troublesome time as the day in which we live. We will use the scriptures to plainly explain the details of all these occurrences. I'm not giving any prediction dates for the rapture or the second coming, just merely presenting the facts in a mostly chronological order to simplify the information that we have. So simple that a child could understand. So let me share my screen with you and let's get started, shall we? Okay, brothers and sisters, we will begin our study with the book of 2 Thessalonians, chapter 2. We're going to talk a little bit about the man of lawlessness. Now, concerning the coming of our Adon, Yeshua, Messiah, and our being gathered together to him, we ask you, brothers, not to be easily disconcerted or alarmed by any spirit or message or letter seeming to be from us, alleging that the day of the Adon has already come. Let no one deceive you in any way, for it will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness, the son of destruction, is revealed. He will oppose and exalt himself above every so-called God or object of worship. So he will seat himself in the temple of Yahweh, proclaiming himself to be Yahweh. Do you not remember that I told you these things while I was still with you? And you know what is now restraining him, so that he may be revealed at the proper time. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work, but the one who now restrains him will continue until he is taken out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Adon, Yeshua, will slay with the breath of his mouth and annihilate by the majesty of his arrival. The coming of the lawless one will be accompanied by the working of Satan with every kind of power, sign, and false wonder, and with every wicked deception directed against those who are perishing because they refused the love of the truth that would have saved them. So sad. They refused the love of the truth that would have saved them. For this reason, Yahweh will send them a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie, in order that judgment will come upon all who have disbelieved the truth and delighted in wickedness. Now the abomination of desolation, which he is called here, in the book of Daniel, was the pagan offerings that replaced the twice daily offering to Yahweh in the Jewish temple in the time of the Greek king Antiochus IV, who is called otherwise Antiochus Epiphanes. Or it could be the altar on which such offerings were made, and makes desolate is probably a reference to Antiochus himself as the bringer of desolation to Jerusalem. I will explain more in detail about this after we read Matthew 24 later in this study. Now let's turn to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. We'll begin reading with verse 13. Brothers, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you will not grieve like the rest who are without hope. For since we believe that Yeshua died and rose again, we also believe that Yahweh will bring with Yeshua those who have fallen asleep in him. By the word of Yahweh we declare to you that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Adon will by no means precede those who have fallen asleep. For Messiah himself will descend from the Shamaim with a loud command, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of Yahweh, and the dead in Messiah will be the first to rise. After that, we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Adon in the air, and so will we always be with the Adon. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. Now let's proceed to Matthew chapter 24, and we'll start reading at verse 4. Yeshua answered, See to it that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, claiming, I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. These things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pangs. Then they will deliver you over to be persecuted and killed, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. At that time, many will fall away and will betray and hate one another, and many false prophets will arise and mislead many. There's so many already. Because of the multiplication of wickedness, people going their own way, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who perseveres to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Let's take a look at the abomination of desolation. So when you see standing in the Kodesh place the abomination of desolation described by the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. The reason he says that is because this prophecy was fulfilled in 167 BC, but it was not completely fulfilled, and he is most definitely telling us here that it is going to be fulfilled again in the end, and then it will be completely fulfilled. Let's look back to verse 16. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop come down to retrieve anything from his house, and let no one in the field return for his cloak. How miserable those days will be for pregnant and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not occur in the winter or on the Sabbath, for at that time there will be great tribulation, unmatched from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be seen again. If those days had not been cut short, nobody would be saved. And when he says nobody would be saved, he literally means nobody would be left alive. He's not talking about personal salvation of individuals, personal salvation for me or you, but actual life. Nobody would live through it. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. And keep that in mind. For the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. At that time, if anyone says to you, Look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders that would deceive even the elect if that were possible. See, I have told you in advance. Now let's look at his return. So if they tell you, there he is in the wilderness, do not go out. Or here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For just as the lightning comes from the west and flashes as far as comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Keep that verse in mind. We're going to get to it again in just a little while here. Where there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the Shamaim will be shaken. At that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the Shamaim, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the Shamaim with power and great esteem, and he will send out his messengers with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the Shamaim to the other. Now let's take a look at the lesson of the fig tree. And this could be any tree that loses its leaves in the fall and then buds again in the spring just before summer. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its branches become tender and sprout leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see all these things, you will know that he is near, right at the door. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have happened. The Shamaim and the earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. In Matthew 24:15, Yeshua was speaking some 200 years after the abomination of desolation described above had already occurred. So, Yeshua must have been prophesying that sometime in the future, another abomination of desolation would occur in a Jewish temple in Jerusalem. There are already talks going on about rebuilding the temple. It's in the works right now. Most Bible prophecy interpreters believe that Yeshua was referring to the Antichrist, who will do something very similar to what Antiochus Epiphanes did. And Antiochus Epiphanes sacrificed a pig on the altar in the temple. And this is confirmed by the fact that some of what Daniel prophesied, for example in Daniel 9:27, did not occur in 167 BC. But with Antiochus Epiphanes, he didn't have a confirmed covenant with Israel for 7 years. This time, it is the anti-Messiah who in the end times will establish a covenant with Israel for 7 years and then break it by doing something similar to the abomination of desolation in the Jewish temple in Jerusalem in 167 BC with Antiochus Epiphanes. Whatever the future abomination of desolation is, it will leave no doubt in anyone's mind that the one perpetrating it is the person known as the anti-Messiah. Revelation 13:14 says, or describes him as making some kind of image which all are forced to worship, turning the temple of the living Elohim into a place of worship for the anti-Messiah is truly an abomination. Now let's move on to Revelation chapter 20. Then I saw a messenger coming down from the Shamaim with the key to the abyss, holding in his hand a great chain. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he threw him in the abyss, shut it, and sealed it over him, so that he could not deceive the nations until the 1,000 years were complete. After that he must be released for a brief period of time. Then I saw the thrones, and keep this in mind, thrones, and those seated on them had been given authority to judge. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their testimony of Yeshua and for the word of Yahweh, and those who had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their foreheads or hands. And they came to life and reigned with Messiah for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come back to life until the 1,000 years were complete. This is the first resurrection that we're talking about. Baruch and Kodesh are those who share in the first resurrection. The second death has no power over them. But they will be priests of Yahweh and of Messiah, and will reign with him for 1,000 years. Who are the ones on the thrones? And it didn't say just a throne. It wasn't like the throne of Yahweh and then the final great judgment that's yet to come. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10. We read, "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Messiah." He's not talking to non-believers. He's talking to the believers here. "So that each of us may receive what is due us for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad." The righteous will reign for 1,000 years. But what about the wicked that are still alive on the earth at the second coming of Messiah? They will all be destroyed. Let's look at what the Scripture says regarding those still alive that aren't followers of the Word. Luke 17:26 tells us, "Just as it was in the days of Noah, so also will it be in the days of the Son of Man. People were eating and drinking, marrying and being given in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. Then the flood came and destroyed them all." It was the same in the days of Lot. People were eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting and building. But on the day Lot left Sodom, fire and sulfur, brimstone as some call it, rained down from the heaven and destroyed them all. It will be just like that on the day the Son of Man is revealed. Also, we read in Jeremiah 25, verse 33, "Those slain by Yahweh on that day will be spread from one end of the earth to the other. They will not be mourned, gathered, or buried. They will be like dung lying on the ground." Now let's take a look at Revelation chapter 19 and verse 17. Something very interesting is all coming together here. "Then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried out in a loud voice to all the birds flying overhead, 'Come, gather together for the great supper of Yahweh, so that you may eat the flesh of kings and commanders and mighty men, of horses and riders, of all men, slave and free, small and great.'" Remember, I told you earlier, keep this in mind. Matthew 24 and verse 27 says, "For just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will be gathered." Okay, that all comes together great, and I know that all of this is reaching the end of this study, and I hope that most of the verses pretty much explain themselves. It's not a difficult topic to understand. It's just that there's so many different things involved, and people get that a little bit out of sync sometimes. And, well, what about the rapture? I know if I don't address this topic, I will have to address it in the comments sections after the video is already put up, and that would just be insufficient. I will start by saying I don't know nothing. But I'll try to explain to you what I best understand, and I will not say anything more than what the Scriptures actually say. So let's read again 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 6. "And you know what is now restraining him, so that he may be revealed at the proper time," talking about the lawless one. "For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work." It was in work in the day of Shaul and the disciples. "But the one who is now the one who now restrains him will continue until he is taken out of the way. Let's say if the one who restrains the lawless one is the Ruach HaKodesh, which some claim, but we don't have any proof that that's the one going to be restraining, or is now restraining the lawless one, because the works of lawlessness began right after Yeshua left this earth and ascended to the Father. Then when he is taken out of the way, meaning the Ruach HaKodesh, and if he is taken from the earth, we very possibly could accompany him. But I have no scripture to back that up, so I cannot truly attest to that. What I can attest to is to admonish you to watch and pray. No one knows the day or the hour that Yeshua will return. Only the Father knows that. And he's not telling us, and didn't tell us in the Scriptures. Seeing that the Scriptures are unclear regarding what is called the rapture, that only shows us that we are not meant to focus on it. Just watch and pray. That was the command that Yeshua gave to us. Watch and pray. Keep the Father's covenant with us. Follow his loving instructions, and salvation will surely come. If I am required, and I'm living through the entire tribulation, I'm required to give up my life or receive the mark, which would be really giving up my life when you come down to the truth of it, I will choose to die. Am I better than Peter or Paul? Both of those fellows gave their lives. Are you better than James? He gave his life. Are you better than John the Baptist? He gave his life off with the head, all because of a woman that was a wicked woman. There may be some tough times ahead. I'm not going to lie to you. I would love to come in here and tell you, oh, praise Yahweh, he's going to take us out before any bad things happen. But the fact of the matter is, I can't tell you that, because I can't tell you anything that the Scriptures don't tell you. So, but I can tell you, there's always hope. And if you follow Yahweh, our Elohim, with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, it won't matter what happens around you. You will still be filled with his Ruach. You will still worship him and Yareh Yahweh. There's going to be miracles in the last days too. And I'm not talking about just the miracles of the false prophets and the anti-Messiah and so forth and so on. There are going to be miracles always with Yahweh's people. So pray and watch, and hopefully there will be a rapture. I really hope so. But if Yahweh chooses for me to remain here on this earth until the end, and I believe that some will remain to the end and not be taken. I think that that's sort of something that's part of the plan. And we've even mentioned that before in the live stream on Caregivers channel. But that's not for certain either. But who knows? Who can really say? Well, I have 3 videos that I am recommending to you, and I will link those videos in the Show More section below this video. So after you watch the video, be sure to go down and get those links. If you don't watch them then, that's okay. But just get the links so you'll have them. These are pretty good links, and they were very inspiring to me, and I know that they would inspire you also. So the first video is about the temple. We know that the temple's got to be rebuilt before Yeshua returns, right? And that could be started anytime now. And these first two videos that I'm going to show you are about the temple. That one with Bob Cornuke, incredible. And then the one called The City of David, and this is also a good video. And then the third is a video that was, actually it's just it was a recording that was on the internet many years ago. It's not too many years ago, back in 1997 or 98, I think. And it was like a testimony of Ron Wyatt. And the video that has been done just this last year, as a matter of fact, beginning of last summer, it's called the ARK and the Blood. An incredible testimony and discovery. Ron Wyatt claims, and even on his deathbed, proclaimed that he had found the Ark of the Covenant. Now, I don't know what that stirs in your heart, but it brings all kinds of things to my mind and my heart. And so, you watch this video also. I'm not saying that I believe 100% that he's telling the truth, or I believe 100% that it would even be this way, but I'm just telling you that it inspired me, and I think it will inspire you also. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Shalom and Ahav.
I thank God for the blood that saved my soul today. I thank God for the blood washed my sins away. If it wasn't for the blood that was shed on Calvary, then I wouldn't be part of the heavenly family. When I was discouraged and trouble surrounded me, my hurt and burdened soul was longing to be free. Down on my knees in an altar I wept and prayed unto the Lord. He forgave my sins and remembered them no more. And I thank God for the blood that saved my soul today. I thank God for the blood washed my sins away. If it wasn't for the blood that was shed on Calvary, then I wouldn't be part of the heavenly family. What's that sound I hear from the east? It sounds like trumpet blow. Oh, Gabriel standing on the land and sea, shouting, time shall be no more. I see sweet Jesus coming in the clouds for every eye to see. Mother, father, sister, brother, rising up in the air, all shouting victory. I thank God for the blood that saved my soul today. I thank God for the blood washed my sins away. If it wasn't for the blood that was shed on Calvary, then I wouldn't be part of the heavenly family. Yes, I thank God